You might have seen a case being fought in a court of law, either as a scene in a film or in real life. There are two sides in this case: the plaintiff who makes the complaint and the defendant who argues to prove that he is not guilty. Everywhere we have to use our critical sense of argumentation and our logical exposition of ideas. It's possible that even in your profession, you are a salesman and you have to sell your wares, or you are a promoter for a company and you have to sell your ideas. In either case, you have to use strong persuasion and convincing arguments to win your clients and customers. An academic debate is a good exercise to begin with, to sharpen just these mental tools which we require for our profession. Today we are going to present a debate.
Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you on behalf of EngIish Debating Club to their annual public debate this evening, the topic of which is the proper place of man today is in the kitchen. We have with us three eminent personalities of your town, Professor Garde, Professor V. Ramarao, and Professor Chawla. As judges, I would like to state that they are deeply involved with education, human resources development, and the problems of women in general. We have two teams debating this evening, and each team has 3 members. Each speaker is permitted 2.5 minutes speaking time. At the end of 2 minutes, Mr. Farooqi here will ring a single bell, and this means that the speaker must wind up his argument. At the end of another half minute, Mr. Farooqi will give 2 bells, and that means the speaker's time is up. After all the members of both the teams have spoken their arguments, the leader of each team will then sum up the debate for his side. He will be given an extra 2 minutes to do this. Any speaker who exceeds the time limit will be penalized. You will then be judged on your performance by our 3 eminent judges here. Now, I request Anya Bhushan Sharma, the leader of the team supporting the motion, to initiate the debate.
Madam Chairperson, I hardly need re-emphasize the point that men have been great cooks in the past. Men are great cooks today, and men will be great cooks in the future. So men ought to, the proper place for man is the kitchen. On the other hand, all of us have had the experience of talking to a telephone operator, and if the telephone operator is a woman, what a nice reply she gives you. How polite if she has to turn down your request. How warm and gentle she is. If you go to an office where you have to face a woman, she is always polite to you. And going to an office where a woman is the person in the chair, then it makes all the difference. Even if your work cannot get done, you feel satisfied that she has done her best to help you. That is not true when men are there. Women are polite, women are courteous, women are helpful, women are warm, but that does not mean that women are weak. So you need women to run your affairs, because they can run our affairs much more efficiently, much more better than men have ever done it before. I do not say that it's only the kitchen where men can work, but I do mean to say that the proper place for man is the kitchen, because man has shown efficiency man has shown a special talent for the culinary art. It's not only that. Much more money is spent, much more time and is given towards the upbringing of women in middle class families. And I wish to re-emphasize the point middle class. And if we don't make proper use of the talent of women, the middle class women, then we lose national resource. It's not only that, Madam Chairperson. Women have been exploited throughout history, and let us rectify the wrong done to them. Let us give them their proper places in high places in the society, and we will have a better society. So my plea for the man in the kitchen is my plea for a strong and powerful and well-governed India.
Amir Bhushan Sharma, the leader for the motion, begins his speech with the right form of address, Madam Chairperson, and goes on to give us a number of examples to prove how women have fared comparatively well in public relations. He makes the idea effective by a good system of speech delivery. There is a proper modulation of voice, and he uses certain rhetorical devices. Key words and phrases, you notice, are continually repeated. This brings in a certain rhythm into the speech and is an effective device to arrest the attention of our listeners. However, did you notice that there were certain hesitations and fumblings as he went on speaking? Perhaps he could have been even better in his speech if he had put in a little bit of homework. There's one thing also to be said about the time limit, about keeping to the time limit. Amir ignored both the time warning signals. He should have started rounding up when the first bell was given and ended up satisfactorily when the second was given.
Mr. Salil Mishra will now initiate the debate for the opposition.
Madam Chairperson, friends, it was nice to see my Amir Bhushan Sharma use history and refer to it. What's more, he was actually abusing history and misusing history mainly to suit his convenience, to suit his point. After exhausting his list of compliments for the women, he actually went on to use the kitchen like a garbage, like an asylum, let's say, where men could be locked and put. The society needs to be safe from the men because they've been misusing it, and therefore they should all be taken away from the society and put in the kitchen and locked there forever. That's not my way. I plan to approach the issue somewhat differently. I would like to split the statement written over there into its major areas of emphasis, into 3 major areas of emphasis, and then take them up separately and see what the implications are. I would like to read thus. 1. The only proper place for man of today is in the kitchen. 2. The proper place of man only man today is in the kitchen. 3. The proper place of man today is in the kitchen only. Now I'd like to take all of them up separately. 1. The only proper place of man is in the kitchen. That implies that all the other places for man become improper. Surely we don't mean to say that. What happens to a dining table? Is that an improper place for a man to be? I would not think so. What about a soccer field? What about a classroom? What about a television screen? What about a government office? In fact, what about 1,000 other places where we are used to see men perform? Now, what does this mean? What happens to all the exquisite female cooks whose food we've been eating for centuries? It is actually to deprive the society of tremendous creativity and potentials that women are capable of performing in the kitchen. I would say that working in the kitchen is women's right, their prerogative, and let's not deprive them of it. The proper place of man today is in the kitchen only. It is actually to deprive the kitchen and deprive the man of various other areas where men have been performing splendidly. It is actually to ruin various other opportunities for them. Imagine someone like Amitabh Bachchan ruining all his film career and cooking up vegetables instead of a conspiracy to kill the villain. Worse still, imagine all these people if they were to eat vegetables which someone like Amitabh Bachchan would be preparing. My conclusion, therefore, is that no matter how you read the statement, no matter where you look at it, you treat it upside down, start from the beginning, start from the end, start from anywhere, it does not seem to make sense, at least to me.
Salil Mishra establishes immediate rapport with his audience by using a proper system of delivery. He has the proper eye contact with the audience, clear-cut, neat, smart gestures, and modulates his voice perfectly. But did you understand everything that he said? I must confess, I was a bit confused. You see, Salil took the topic sentence and gave it 3 interpretations by placing the word only in 3 different places. Now, can we do that with the topic of a debate? No, we can't. We cannot take such liberties. And if we quibble too much with the topic or the meaning of the debate or the meaning of a word, we do display a verbal wit, but in the process we blur up our arguments and cut off the punch of the arguments. They don't get across clearly to the listeners, and that is a serious disadvantage.
Ajay Mahulkar will now speak for the motion.
Madam Chairperson, friends, the topic today, the proper place of man today is in the kitchen, needs to be looked at in all its emphasis on the word today. Madam Chairperson, today is a crucial point in this particular topic. Today suggests to us today's society, today suggests to us today's context, today suggests to us today's way of life. Now, I have a reason for supporting this topic, a very important reason I think, which is namely that the proper place of man today is in the kitchen for the simple reason because the man today is not getting married or he doesn't stay married. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, I'd like to take you to certain statistics. I mean, that's all I have at the moment to shoulder my argument. In the United States of America, for example, Madam Chairperson, we have a situation where the sexual revolution never materialized. What it led to ultimately was a situation where marriages took place and broke, or marriages never took place at all. In Japan, again we have a situation of a similar kind. High rents, high cost of living in the cities deprives man the company of his spouse or his woman while living in the cities. In such a situation, he has again got to stay alone. Madam Chairperson, even in the third world, a similar kind of a situation prevails, where we have a dominant value system telling us, look, the man has got to support his spouse. Now, can he do it with the kind of, the income level he has, the kind of money he can take back home after everything? So, the point remains that he's got to stay alone and look after himself.
Ajay takes the word today from the topic of the debate and makes it the focal point of his argument. He cites a number of examples existing all over the world in order to prove his point. It all sounds very convincing, but has he taken care to see that his argument is founded on foolproof evidence? The next speaker against the motion, Sunaina Kumar, has something to say about Ajay's argument.
I would like to refer to what Ajay before me had said. He said that men are not getting married and that the sexual revolution in America ended up in people not getting married. I suggest that they were not getting married but they were living together. And then it was the woman who was cooking anyway.
There are a number of logical fallacies that weaken our arguments and make them vulnerable to the attacks of the opponents. We must avoid them. Ajay founded his inference on weak grounds, so Sunaina was able to shatter the argument. Another type of logical argument is mistaken cause and effect relationship. If I say that the floods in this area have been caused because of the heavy rate of crime among the people, I am using no scientific rationale, and therefore my argument hangs loose, and the opponent may riddle holes into it. Then there's the logical fallacy called hasty prediction. If I say that the world will be annihilated in 2000 AD, again I'm merely speculating. Nobody can predict with such accuracy. Another logical fallacy is appeal to questionable authority. If I state in my argument that cigarette smoking is injurious to health because Rekha says it, I'm not quoting an authority on cigarette smoking, and therefore the argument falls to pieces.
A proper place, I submit, is a place one is best qualified for by virtue of one's training or one's natural ability. Are men today then best trained for the kitchen? Have they proven natural ability for cooking? Men claim to be connoisseurs of food. They decide what is to be cooked and how and when, how it is to be served. They often decide how much is even to be spent, but does that prove anything at all? Men have the muscles to work in the farms and factories. It is suggested that they now use those muscles in the kitchen for cooking, for chopping, for kneading, for grinding. And it is suggested further that women are put in the farms and factories. Women have less muscles than men. And can you imagine what happens to a china shop when the bull enters it? Another appeal, friends, is to your stomachs. Are you sure you want to lose all those lovely secret recipes of your grandmothers for those lovely pickles and papads? And you want to replace it by creative cookery? But friends, cooking is mostly mundane, repetitive and prosaic. All those endless cups of tea that are brewed in our kitchens every day, and those dozens of chapatis that are rolled out, they don't need any creativity. I submit, therefore, that the proper place of man today is not in the kitchen.
Humor is an effective tool to win the favors of our audience, and Sunaina Kumar displays tongue-in-cheek humor in her speech, which almost amounts to mild satire.
Anju Gupta is the last speaker for the motion.
Madam Chairman, friends, my friends in the opposition have given such frivolous arguments. We have Salil Mishra, who quibbled with the word only. He talked of the exquisite female cooks and their creativity. Ha ha. Then he talked about Amitabh Bachchan. Sunaina Kumar talked about the muscles of man, live-in relationships. And too bad, Sunaina, that men are not trained to be cooks. I try and bring a certain seriousness to the debate. Times are different, and the old order changeth, yielding place to new. And after centuries of, being slaves to man, woman has realized that she has an identity of her own, she has certain ambitions, she has certain aspirations, and these need to be fulfilled. And these aspirations need not be confined to the house. They can be in those very spheres which man thought were his purview. So, at the same time, we still need to eat food. Who is to do the cooking? Maybe man can now enter in and help and encourage the woman and the family, just as the woman did it all the years and the centuries. And that, friends and Madam Chairman, should be no problem at all. Because if you go to a 5-star hotel, who do you see as the chief chef? It is the man. And if the man has no qualms cooking for all and sundry, Why should he not cook happily for his own family?
Till now, we have been listening to speakers taking a one-sided stance. They have either spoken for or against the motion totally. And our listeners, who are satiated and tired of this extremist stand, will be able to appreciate the attitude of compromise and balance in logic that the next speaker, the last speaker against the motion, Rekha Sharma, is going to take up.
My opponents have been very deeply concerned about the fact that women have been very cleverly prevented from participation in decision-making by relegating them to the kitchen and other household tasks. This is a point I agree with, but where I do not agree, Madam Chairperson, is the method they are advocating for correcting this imbalance. The answer does not lie in taking the man to the kitchen. I should like to examine the topic and understand its implications. The topic says, proper place of man. Proper means correct, appropriate, right, and implies that this is the best able to perform, or that this is the only job he is able to do. The people for the motion believe that by taking the man to the kitchen, they'll make up for the centuries of neglect for women, because if man takes to the kitchen, women necessarily take to the world outside the kitchen. But I feel all is not right with this proposition, and let me tell you why. It is often said that men and women are two sides of a balance, and right now the balance is tilted in favor of men. What makes it so? Madam Chairperson, it is the greater opportunities available to men which is tilting the pan in their favor. To balance it, we have two choices. You could either give more opportunities to women or take away from the opportunities available to men. And if we say that men are fit only for the kitchen, we are doing the latter, that is taking away the opportunities from them, and that is not a very progressive solution. Women need to be taken out of the kitchen, certainly. But emancipating one sex does not mean you push the other into the backyard. Kitchen does not have to be identified as a proper place for any one sex. The answer lies not in a role reversal, but in a mutual sharing of all roles, which includes the role of the cook. To conclude, Madam Chairperson, I would say that my opponents have missed out on one very crucial point, and that is, in the present social and economic context, is the man willing to be led to the kitchen and face the consequences? I think he's not. And if he's not, where lies the debate?
And now, the two leaders, for and against the motion, must sum up the debate for their sides.
I hardly have to sum up the arguments for my side, because even my opponents have supported my point. If the last honorable lady in the opposition has clearly said that man would refuse to go to the kitchen, and so there is no question of his going to the kitchen. I don't think, Madam Chairperson, that is a viable point of view, because if the situations warrant, man will have to go to the kitchen. I must say, Madam Chairperson, that if Amitabh Bachchan does not do a little bit of cooking in his kitchen, I am sure many more Jaya Bhadris would be thrown out of the cinema world. Many talents would be thrown out to rot.
I'm surprised that my friend Amya Bhushan Sharma should have really said whatever it is that he did. His speech was born more out of conveniences than any conviction, really. What did he do? Having very profoundly misconstrued Rekha Sharma's argument, he went on to contradict some of his own and his colleagues. As a matter of fact, everybody, they were so busy contradicting each other. I'll just explain how. One speaker referred to the past, talked about the history. Other speaker wanted to divorce the past from the present by emphasizing today. One speaker went on to an absolutely emotional trip, emphasizing the desirability and the centuries of oppression and so on and so forth. The other speaker said it's got nothing to do with female chauvinism, male chauvinism, left, right. One was being practical, the other was being emotional. One was being talking about desirability, one was being talking about feasibility. Now my appeal to you, my friends, is make up your minds. The idea is to enlarge a social space for the men and not restrict one for the men. Let me repeat. The idea is to open up various areas of social roles, responsibilities for women. And that is the solution. The idea is not to restrict, close avenues for men and lock them in the kitchen.
Up till this point in our analysis of the debate, we have been concentrating on what we have heard the speakers say and not what we have seen them doing. Now, what I am trying to say is that in human communication, there is another type of language which is becoming increasingly important in today's world, and that is body language. Because while we speak, the expression of our faces, our hand movements, all these are being noticed by the listeners unconsciously or consciously, and they help and add to the meaning of what we are saying.
Now, Professor Prabha Chawla will announce the results and then say a few words.
The performance of all speakers have been really excellent, but to prove that we all have done some work and we have listened to you intently, we decide to declare Rekha Sharma to be number 1. And the team against the motion again comes first in the contest.
Now let us recapitulate all that we have learnt in this program. In order to be an effective debater, you must prepare your speech well. You must anticipate the arguments of the opponents. You must avoid logical fallacies which weaken your arguments. You must establish rapport with your audience by modulating your voice properly, by bringing in meaningful pauses in the voice, and by good eye contact. And finally, you must use proper body language.